My name is Bob Rezendes. I am currently the Dean for the Taunton Center. But previous to that, I was the Associate Dean for the library here at Bristol, where I had worked for about approximately 20 years. Here at Bristol, we started looking into a pilot for developing our own, or developing, adapting, and adopting open educational resources in direct response to what we were hearing from our students. For me personally, it was when I was working in the library here, and we would always, at the start of the semester, have quite a number of students coming in asking if whether or not the library had the textbooks that they could borrow for their courses because of how many of them couldn't afford it. And even with the library, even the library could not keep up with the cost of having a copy of all textbooks available. So that was when I got involved in trying to promote OER on campus and reaching out to some of the faculty to see who would be of interest to start developing their own open educational resources or even adopt what's currently available out there. There's quite a bit being developed. But it really was in direct response to trying to do something that would help alleviate that financial barrier that our students face. Open educational resources, commonly referred to as OER, are exactly what it sounds like. They are resources that are available without restriction. They are generally available for free, found on the internet or web, but not necessarily just what's online. There are open educational resources that are available in print. Probably the one that's most well known is the OpenStax collection. They are resources that provide the information that students need for their courses without the cost of a high-priced textbook. MIT first released their OpenCourseWare in 2001. Essentially, they made all their videos from lectures from their instructors available through their website, free of charge. Anyone could access them who were interested in finding out more about a particular topic based on some of the courses that they offered at MIT. From there, other open education resources have been more well known. And then there's also what we know as open educational resources today, and that is a lot of what's being developed on local college campuses in direct response to the high-priced textbooks that our students are faced with. One great example of OER that we have here at Bristol was what was created by one of our faculty members, Dan Avedikian, and it was for the developmental math sequence, as well as a couple of other math classes that he's also working on. The beauty of what Dan is doing with his videos is that in some cases the problems and examples that he's referring to students are able to go back and watch at their own pace. They can stop at certain points and rewind to review the material, to when they're going through the steps of solving the problem. They can watch it more than once. They are able to essentially learn the material at their own pace, as well as being able to have the videos instead of just a traditional lecture. Students have that ability to go back and watch it again and again if they still need a little more review of the material, especially when it's getting close to exam time. That can be really helpful. The other thing that's great about Dan's OERs, particularly here at Bristol, is he'll use examples that refer to local landmarks or uses locations for some of his math problems, and it just makes the problem a little more relative to the students, which helps them, again, understand them a little bit better.
The OER idea evolved over time. What I used to do was just put the notes for the class online for the students, and the notes started really as just an outline. So it would be, today's subjects, and there'll be 5 bulleted points. And those eventually, over many semesters, evolved into fully, paragraphs, full explanations with examples, but it took a few semesters for that to happen. And the students started to ask me if I could just copy the homework questions for them. They said, well, your notes are good enough, we can answer all the homework, we don't really read the book, and it's a shame to buy a $250 book just to answer a few homework questions. And I knew I couldn't do that, you know, that would be against the rules. So I started to make my own homework questions, and then I didn't need the book at all. And all the information, the printed notes and the homework with the video solutions all goes on the school's website, the e-learning site, and now the students don't have to buy a book at all. But it wasn't a one semester project. It's something that happened over maybe 4 or 5 semesters, from the time of just the outlined notes to the full set of notes with the homework and the solutions. It took a while, a few years.
I started teaching a full face-to-face class last summer, and it was a special grant program. They let the students have it for free, and because it was free, they didn't want the students to have to pay for a book. So Dan set it up as an OER course. So it was the first time I taught an OER course here at Bristol Community College. So Dan had actually set up the syllabus and everything and told me which sections I was going to teach, and I followed his syllabus right down to the T. I also had a student teacher in the class with me, and she was very helpful as well. She would meet with the students an hour before the class and answer any of their questions. So I had the combination of the OER course, the co-requisite course, which was Math 119 and 060, and a student teacher all at the same time. So it was my first time in that particular venue. It worked out so well here at Bristol Community College that I've since used that Math 119, 060, OER combination for every time I've taught that.
Well, the reason why I wanted to adapt Dan's OER is because I felt it was a good way for us to introduce something to the students that was outside of the traditional aspect. The OER gave the students the ability to be able to go through the information without having to do the extraneous information that would give in a traditional lecture class. In a traditional textbook, they end up giving the student far more information that they actually need. So with the OER, what they can be able to use is just the information that is definitely needed for them to understand the course without having to go through all that information that is not necessarily needed for their knowledge.
So I wanted to adopt Dan's OER materials because I wanted to avoid the first 2 weeks of class when some of the students didn't have the money to pay for the book, or they were waiting for the financial aid advances. That didn't help them at all, because then they couldn't start working on the homework problems and studying for the class. So that was my main motivation.
I wanted to adopt Dan's OER because that would help student, and I knew Dan was doing OER, so he was happy to share his OER resources. That's why I wanted to use his OER.
I think the original plan, or my original intent, was because it was going to save the students a lot of money. But it's turned into, and now that I've taught a few using OER materials, it's a lot more than that. I find that they're a lot less anxious when they have materials that have the materials that Dan uses, because he uses familiar places and names, and I think they're a lot less anxious when they read it. A math textbook can be very, very intimidating, especially if you consider yourself a weak math student, which a lot of the students seem to consider themselves. And they get settled right in. I can see the anxiety level goes down. So that's my biggest thing now, is that it really has helped decrease the amount of anxiety. And as a bonus, they do save a lot of money.
I have a question about the business.
My name is Amy Blanchett. I graduated from Bristol Community College in the spring of 2017. I was a General Studies Mass Transfer major. I'm now currently at the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, where I'm majoring in political science and minoring in English literature. I work in the Office of Student Life right now, and I also work at Family Service Association. And I am currently the president of FENOM. I took his Directed Study Open Educational Resource course on statistics. Prior to taking the course, I honestly was scared to death. To be in a statistics course, I had struggled here just in the general ed math classes tremendously.
My name is Jillian Malinsky, and my program at Bristol Community College is General Studies. The OER course that I took with Dan Avedikian was Math 131, Elements of College Mathematics. I felt that the subject matter was interesting and not too difficult, which is why it sparked my interest.
But I would say the main goal really is to eliminate that expensive book for the students. It's so much work to make this OER project, and if the book was, say, $45, I wouldn't be so motivated to do all that work. But where the book costs $250, $280, now I'm very interested in helping the students out and having them not have to buy the book. That's the main part, I would say. But it does other good things too.
It not only does OER eliminate a financial barrier of a student purchasing a high-priced textbook, but it also gives the students the resources that they need, sometimes even more up-to-date than what you will find in a traditional print textbook from day one. They're not worrying or waiting to how they're going to get that textbook for the first week of class. They have everything they need in order to become successful in keeping up with the assignments right from the beginning, the readings right from the beginning, which will in turn help them have a better grade.
The main goal of adopting the OER is twofold. One is that it keeps the students from having to pay over $100 for a book or an online support system. And it also allows them to see another teacher and their perspective and way of teaching the same material.
My main goal for adopting the OER was for us to be able to get through for the student to understand the subject matter without having to go through a great deal of information. And it worked quite well because they were able to adapt to it very easily versus if they had taken two separate courses. And the OER helped in that manner together with the co-requisite quite well because we had plenty of time from the end of the semester for us to go through all the material without having to worry about not being able to get through every single subject matter.
So the main goal of adapting OER is to help student, or basically save student money and make the course more accessible to a student.
Originally, to save the students a lot of money. Math textbooks are extremely expensive, but for me now, the main objective is that I find the students are a lot less intimidated by Dan's materials because they're friendly, they're easy to read. He doesn't use 10-digit numbers when a 2 or 3-digit number would serve the purpose. They're learning the same concepts with a lot less stress and a lot less time-consuming practice.
Be able to have students engage with the course materials right away in the first 2 weeks of classes, because they would have had access to the course materials right away. If they have to pay for a book, sometimes they don't have the money, sometimes they have to wait for the money advances from the financial aid, or they just have other commitments and they didn't realize how expensive the college level books were going to be.
Well, the importance of saving students money is absolutely critical. I mean, students at a community college typically are not super wealthy, so money is important, and it can make the difference between being able to continue with the course or not. And some students with financial aid, they have a book voucher, but it's only good for $200, and the price of the book often exceeds that. So now they have to make the decision, do they take the course with no book, do they not take the course? So freeing up the money for the book allows them to take an additional class, to make progress at the rate that they'd like to, and it's very important to save the students money, at this school especially.
Not having to pay for a book for a certain class is very helpful because it takes the cost down and then I don't have to worry about having to sell a book afterwards.
In this day and age, it's very important to save students a considerable amount of money, especially the way that textbooks are now being increasing in price year after year. The OER gives them a nice stable means of monetary needs in order for them to be able to do the course without having to worry about whether or not they'll be able to do the next course or the next course. If they stay with a consistent level, then they will have no problems on being able to focus on the course material rather than on the money.
This is community college. A lot of students are working students. They are in, I would say most of them are in financial hardship. So even they could save a little bit amount of money, that is going to be so beneficial. And I have had experience of students being not able to buy textbooks because of their financial situation. So it is really important.
I absolutely feel that not having to pay for another textbook definitely helped, not just overall, but in my decision with taking this course in the first place. Being a former student and being on the student senate and having so many students come up to me day in and day out complaining about the prices of textbooks and how they can't afford it and how they can't afford to live and pay for textbooks, or how they've had to drop numerous courses or completely drop their semester because they couldn't afford the textbooks. Yes, I absolutely feel that taking this OER class and having the no charge for the textbook was just an absolute plus.
Sometimes they don't have money to pay for gas, sometimes they don't have money to pay for a bus, for a babysitter, to buy a calculator. So by saving them between $100 and $200 this semester is $200 that they can't even spend on food or any necessity. And then if they're more relaxed because they don't have money problems, or at least less money problems, they are more likely to learn the materials. I think they also appreciate that they're not paying for the book. So that makes them more likely, I believe, to try their best, because here I have a professor who's trying to save me some money. So I'm gonna try to do my best to be able to pass the class.
Well, in terms of how it helps them learn, I think my notes are more straightforward than the explanation in the book. And the homework is somewhat contextualized. It has more real-life examples than the book has. A lot of it is about BCC, about Fall River, Southeastern Mass, Bristol County, a lot of specific examples that the students can relate to better than the book. So they tend to find it more interesting. So in addition to the fact that it's free, the students find it easier to understand and more interesting. The homework problems are more interesting for them to do.
I can attest to the fact that not just the open educational resources being valuable as far as the content that was provided to me, not to mention free of charge, but also Dan Avedikian, his instruction is phenomenal. He's very patient with me, which says a lot, because I've always been horrible at math, and was always panic-stricken coming to math class, every class prior to taking this OER class with Dan. And once I started to take his class, he put me at ease, which was something that I hadn't had in other math classes prior.
They know that if they get stuck on something, instead of getting stressed out and spending an hour trying to figure something out, they can go to Dan's videos and find out exactly how to do the problem. And again, it lowers their anxiety level knowing that they have almost a tutor 24 hours a day.
For the students to be able to learn for this subject matter helped greatly, because since they were all learning the same type of math and also in the same means of it, in other words, not all that extraneous information, they were able to all learn exactly the same thing without any variation of more information from one student versus more information from another student. This enabled the students to be able to work together quite easily, so that way they can be able to solve problems together or separate. But what I have found through my process is that they worked well together instead of separately.
The OER course with Dan Avedikian definitely helped me learn math. It taught me a lot of business mathematics, which helped me decipher whether or not I want to continue with business or general studies.
Once we go OER, right, each student will have more access to the course material, so they could have access of whatever they need anytime they go, right? So that will definitely help students to succeed more.
Here they have a set of notes that are posted online. They can access from any of their devices. They can access that when they're in the bus, if they have a nice cell phone, which a lot of them do. And then they have the homework problems, they have them online. So we have Dan explaining each problem, so they can see the solutions right away. So that really helps them, because if they are stuck, they can try to find help. But if it's midnight and they don't have somebody to help them, they can just click and try to see if they can follow Dan's explanation.
Oh, it is a fantastic way for the students to learn. So this project has actually helped the students. I see much higher grades with these students in this OER program. And I think it might have to do with the fact that it's a co-requisite course as well, because it allows the extra time in the classroom for the students and the teacher to really master the material.
The other thing that we're also noticing is that student success is increasing in those courses that have open educational resources. What I mean by that is that the percentage of students who are scoring C or better in the courses are actually at a higher percentage than those who are using traditional textbooks. It's not a huge difference, but there is a slight difference in the number of students who are being more successful in these courses. And I can't help but thinking there's two reasons for that. One is that there's elimination of the cost, that some students just sometimes don't purchase that textbook for the course, but it's also the fact that I think that it also reinvigorates the instructor who's teaching the course. It's a bit of a course redevelopment that happens when you're developing your own OER for your course, and it does engage the instructor in a different level than just adopting a publisher's textbook. And so when you have both the student and the faculty being positively impacted by the adoption of OER, it's definitely a win-win for all.
I feel that it's active. The students get to watch the videos whenever they like, and then they ask about the videos afterwards in class. So even though the solution is there, they may still have some very good questions. So they may say, well, I watched the video and I saw the solution, but could I do it this way? Is that the only way to do it? I tried it like this, I got the right answer. Is that a coincidence? Will I always get the right answer with my method? And it creates a lot of good questions.
I give them the homework, they try that on their own, then they can look at the answer on the YouTube videos. But they get it from a different perspective. So they actually are having two different teachers in this class. So they come back to the classroom with a different kind of question than they might have had if they had just had me as a teacher. So Dan and I have some different styles in teaching, and it's like I said, they have two different teachers. And I've had students say, I prefer your style, I prefer Dan's style, and some just do a hybrid of the two.
If we go OER, the course becomes automatically more accessible, right? So they could be more interactive. We could put more interactive tools, things like that. So yes, I think it will create comparatively a more active learning environment.
I have students who try something and they watch the video, it doesn't work out, so they email me. Then I can reply via email and let them know what's going on. And I already know they watch the solutions to the video and they couldn't understand something. So that gives me opportunity to give them feedback via email. And then when I go back to the class, I let the rest of the class know that this student emailed me about this problem. So I was wondering if anybody had problems with the same. I imagine so. And they say, oh yeah, I had issues with that problem too. I didn't understand this part or this part. And then somebody else would say, oh, the way that I understood it was this way, and so on and so forth. So I think by making them more likely to engage with the course materials, they're more likely to pose questions and I can give them feedback.
The OER does create a very good, healthy learning experience for the students. By making it simplistic, they all can be able to understand one another when they work together in groups. Now, normally, in many classes, teachers tend to be the ones that were always the one that told students to work in groups. By students using the OER, we don't have to tell them so much every single time about working in groups. They're more than likely to do it on their own, and it's great help.
I would definitely recommend an OER course to other students because especially the videos are very helpful, and Dan Avedikian was awesome.
They have this as an added resource that they can interact with. They can watch part of the video and stop it, go on and do a little bit more, and then go back to his videos to see if they're doing it right. And if they have to, some students can learn after hearing the material explained once. Some students need to hear it 10 times, and that enables them to do it without feeling uncomfortable in the classroom, having to ask the question or ask something to be repeated over and over again. They can listen to it as often as they need to by using the video. So and I'm sure that all of my students are using them.
Because what Dan Avedikian did was he took a lot of the math problems and he took real-world situations that were very current. He used popular symbolisms, as far as in the media, culture, even local Fall River city politics. Even he kind of threw in with me at one point. He kind of knows the person and will throw in different symbolisms and metaphors in the problem so that you understand it and you get it. And it was definitely engaging. It wasn't boring. It wasn't just, a standard set of numbers on a piece of paper and, just you're sitting there looking and it looks like Chinese to you. It was definitely engaging, to say the least.
Well, YouTube seems to be something that the students are all familiar with already. They're very comfortable with navigating YouTube. They already use it a lot. They all have free access to it. It's easy for me to use. So it seemed like a good choice. It seemed like the best choice, and people who use it don't have to be registered at BCC. It's very easy to include a link. And they can use it not only at a computer. I tend to use YouTube at a computer, but the students all have their smartphones and their tablets, and they can access the homework wherever they are. If they have some downtime at work or if they commute, then they have a phone, they can do some of the homework and at least do a few problems anytime they get a few minutes and from anywhere.
I personally use YouTube a lot, so watching the videos on YouTube makes it a lot more interesting.
Once they come up with their solutions, they can be able to use the YouTube for them to verify whether or not the information that they were doing is accurate. If they can see that what they are doing is exactly how they're introduced in the YouTube videos, then it gives them a great deal of confidence in the material.
I think that using the YouTube helps the students become more engaged in the subject matter because they can access YouTube material anywhere through any medium. And that's a really big plus in this day and age because a lot of students are on their cell phones all the time. And another nice thing about the YouTube platform is that they can pause and they can rewind, they can fast forward, and they can get exactly what they need. And they can, if they only need to check their answer to make sure that they have done the questions correctly, they just go to the end of the question and check them. So they don't have to watch the entire YouTube video in order to answer the question.
All the students rave about those. That really helps them learn.
I think YouTube helps with the accessibility. I utilize YouTube for like music and things like that when I'm doing homework. My son is the one that usually watches YouTube videos and all those YouTube personalities and things like that. But as far as accessibility, yeah, I definitely think YouTube was a great asset as far as that's concerned.
Going YouTube video, that will save a lot of class time, and we could focus on some other thing, maybe some more important thing, right? Anyway, basically it will save some class time. So yeah, I think the YouTube video is gonna be very helpful.
I feel that the grades and the retention have improved. The outcomes have probably remained the same. The outcome for the course is the same as when we used the very expensive book, but I can see an improvement in the grades, and Bob Resendiz, one of our deans, did track that, and he also will corroborate that. And the retention is improved too, partially because of the grades being higher, not as many students are failing or feel the need to withdraw, and also because of the elimination of the cost of the book. That also improves the retention for the course. More students are able to stay because they don't need to pay for the book.
Here at Bristol, I'm really excited with the fact that Dan Avedikian has adopted open educational resources for the developmental maths sequence, for the simple reason that at a community college, and no different here at Bristol, we have a large number of students who, when they arrive here, place into the developmental math sequence. When they take that placement test, a large number of them have, good percentage of them may have not, been away from school for a little bit, or, just math wasn't their favorite subject. And so when they do take the placement exam, they end up needing to take a developmental math course. And developmental math courses are courses that are required of students to take before they take their college level. And so it very often can be a huge obstacle for many of our students. Having an open educational option to that developmental math, where we're seeing a reduction in a financial barrier of students required to take another course, and as well as buy another textbook, we are eliminating that, and as well as the redeveloping of that sequence with open educational resources. We're also seeing an increase in the number of students who are completing that sequence in a much shorter period of time, which then helps the student get into their college level courses quicker, and then having them succeed and graduate in a much more timely fashion.
I feel that the project does align with the mission of Bristol Community College. It does help the students. Individually, each student can benefit from this OER material, not having to pay for the book, having more interesting and more pertinent questions, having easier notes to understand. I think all of this aligns well with our mission.
I don't even know how to describe Dan Avedikian into words that would effectively, really describe the person that he is. Both him and his wife. I mean, they're both just amazing people. But Dan Avedikian he's a great teacher. He listens. He's not judgmental by any means. He has the most calming demeanor of almost anybody I've ever met. He's extremely outgoing, just down to earth. You can tell him anything. He's very accommodating. There's not enough nice things to say about him. He just makes you feel completely at ease and makes math a lot less hellish, I guess you could say.
With that, I've been working with Dan not only as a colleague within the math department, but also with the OER project. And the one thing that is really evident whenever you work with Dan or speak to Dan is that he is always putting the student first. He was one of the first faculty members who joined in on the pilot. He saw the benefits of it, and has really gone beyond what I expected him to do, and really has produced some outstanding OER that I know is not only being used here at Bristol, but because it's uploaded free and openly available through his YouTube channel. There are probably thousands of people out there who are using his videos to better their skills and refreshing their skills in math.
Dan is incredible, not just because he's made all these materials for everybody, but he's always been there whenever I've had a question. He's extremely helpful, always has the answers, always gets back to you right after you. I don't have to wait for him to get back to me. I can't thank him enough for all the time and effort that he's put into this project, and I'm glad people are using it.
I really loved having Dan Avedikian as a teacher. He was really friendly, helpful, and offered help all the time.
I hope that he's a mentor for a lot of other incoming professors that come in here, because I think a lot of up-and-coming professors could learn a lot from him and his direction and how he teaches.
It's my hope that the future of open educational resources here at Bristol is that they continue to be adopted. I think we still have a core number of faculty who have adopted OERs, but we have a good number of faculty who are still a little hesitant. And I think with not only here at Bristol, but nationally, open educational resources are becoming much more in favor. There's been a lot more of research and articles written about the topic. More faculty, it's my hope, get involved with the program and look to adopt the open educational resources as opposed to those traditional textbooks, which again can be very high priced. And with that, also seeing an increase in student success when that happens.
My long-term goal is to do as many classes as an OER as possible. So as I finish one, I'm just going to keep going to the next one.
My role as the president of Phenom, knowing, statewide what we go through, both on the community college and university level, as far as homelessness and textbook costs and the three-dimensional needs of students that I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. 50% of community college students go hungry. That's a really sad statistic. Where homelessness, the population of homelessness is rapidly increasing. I see it daily. I see students come to me all the time, and it's hard to turn them away with just resources and some food or clothing, and not be able to sometimes help them with housing, just because housing is in a crisis right now. So when we have students who are coming here who can't afford to eat, and who are living in their cars, and who have small children, and they're trying to make a better lives for themselves and for their family, and they're trying to come to school and they can't afford the textbooks, I think that we need to come together as a school and as a community, as a state, and say, hey, maybe there's some things that we should try to change and we should try to work around, because these people are trying to make it. They're trying to make a life for themselves. They're trying to make the community a better place by getting an education and bettering their lives. And if it's just the fact that they can't afford the textbook, if the textbook costs, if that's the hurdle that's in their way, then let's take care of it. Let's create an open educational resource course, where they're able to walk into this course and still be able to participate and, get the good grades that they're probably going to get, because it's so important to them and they're so grateful. If it's just that hurdle that happens to be in their way in that moment, why not?